Thanks for checking out this edition of Into the Light. We're in John chapter 11. And at the beginning of John chapter 11, someone comes to tell him that his friend Lazarus is sick. And Jesus says in verse 4 that this situation is going to end in the glory of God. Now he waits around for a couple days, and then he tells them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, and I go to awaken him. And the disciples said, well, why do we need to go? If he's sleeping, if he's resting, he'll get better. But they didn't realize that Jesus was saying Lazarus is sleeping the sleep of death. See, Jesus speaks of death in a temporary manner because he has power over life and death. And he plans to go and awaken him, to raise him from the dead. And he says, I'm glad that this happened this way because we're going to go and you're going to see and you're going to believe in me. Now, Jesus goes to Bethany, and one of his sisters comes and says, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. And Jesus reminds her that I am the life, that he is the resurrection and the life. Well, another sister comes to Jesus, and in verse 32, Mary says to him, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. In verse 33, when Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And verse 35 says, Jesus wept. Well, they say in the next verse, see how he loved him. They think Jesus is crying because he's in grief over Lazarus. But we see, when you read in the text, it's the fact that he sees these people weeping that deeply moves him and causes him to cry. And when the people are questioning, couldn't Jesus have done something about this? In verse 37, in verse 38, Jesus is deeply moved again. And now he's ready to do something about it. But if Jesus knew all along that this was going to end in the glory of God, if he knew that he was going to raise Lazarus from the dead, why is he crying? It's because he feels our pain. Even when he knows that this is going to end in something good, because the people that he loves are crying and hurt and sorrowful, he is moved by that. Jesus is deeply connected to us. When we hurt, Jesus hurts. He feels our pain. What a wonderful Lord that we serve, who loves us so much and is there with us in our pain. And even more wonderful, we know that he can give us strength and hope in his promises, because just as he raises Lazarus from the dead, he prays to God, and then he cries out, arise, come out. And Lazarus comes out, and then he says, unbind him from his burial wrappings and set him free. Just as we see Lazarus come out of the tomb, we know Jesus will make good on his promise to set free all of us who have committed our lives to him. He will set us free from death. What a wonderful Lord that we serve.